Good afternoon, and welcome to the fifth of our Lunch with the League series. Before we start, I would like to make a few announcements. Please remain muted throughout the session. There will be a question and answer session after we hear from our speaker today. So if you have any questions for him, please put them in the chat directed to Chelsea Satula. Finally, I would like to advise you that this session is being recorded, and the link to the recording of each of the sessions will be available on our League website. The link to the website will be posted in the chat. At this time, I would like to introduce the president of our local league, Betsy Patterson, who will make a few remarks regarding the league.
Good afternoon. The League of Women Voters was founded in 1920. 6 months before the ratification of the 19th Amendment, granting women their right to vote nationwide. It was established as a nonpartisan grassroots organization to encourage voters to become active participants in our democracy. The League has many activities, including registering voters, informing them about issues and the candidates through our voter guides and candidate forums, and getting out the vote during elections. We also educate the public about how our government works. In this series, we will be interviewing Ventura County elected officials to learn what their roles are in the government, what skills are required, and what challenges they face. It is not a candidate forum nor a campaign opportunity. It is a chance to educate the public about the work they do in the day-to-day functioning of our county. Thank you for joining us. We hope you gain a better understanding of what our Ventura County elected officials do in their jobs. And now I would like to turn the program back over to Pat Essick.
This screen shows how our county government is organized. And in this series, our intent is to focus on those county officials who are elected, and we will be interviewing them over a 7-week period. Although we have multiple county supervisors, for the purpose of this series, we will only be interviewing one of them who will share with us the various aspects of the role of county supervisor. Okay. And at this time, I have the pleasure to introduce our County Treasurer Tax Collector, Stephen Hintz. Welcome, Judge Hentz, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
We're so glad to have you. Judge Hentz began serving as Ventura County's Treasurer Tax Collector in January of 2011. After earning a BS in Business Management from San Diego State College and his law degree from Bolt Hall School of Law at the University of California, Berkeley, he served in the military for 4 years before joining the District Attorney's Office in Ventura County. He has had a long career in public service, including as Deputy District Attorney from 1975 through 1982, and Municipal Court Judge starting in 1982, then Superior Court Judge in 1998, retiring in 2007. From 1985 to 2004, he taught constitutional law related courses at Ventura College. Judge Hentz is a certified public funds administrator and a certified public funds investment manager. So let me ask you, I'm going to ask some questions. So Judge Hentz, could you please explain to us what the qualifications and the prerequisites are that prepare one for the role of County Treasurer Tax Collector?
The legal prerequisites are contained in California Government Code Section 24001 and 27000.7. Basically, the qualifications are that you must have served in a senior financial management position in government for at least 3 years, or that you hold a college degree in business or economics related fields, or that you are a CPA, or that you are a chartered financial analyst as designated in professional conduct rules, or that the Treasury Management Association has designated you as a certified cash manager. Those rules for state suggestions, which the County of Ventura adopted late in 2009.
Okay, thank you. How long is your term and are there term limits?
It's a 4-year term, but there are no term limits by statute.
Okay, thank you. What is your department's budget and how many employees are in your department?
Our budgeted expenditures for this year are about $5.4 million. Against those costs, we show revenue of $4.1 million. The approximately $1.8 billion that we collect in taxes, that doesn't count as revenue because, of course, there's more than one agency that's actually involved in that system. So our net county cost, that is what we actually cost the county, is $1.3 million. Let me turn off this phone,
Sure. That's
Staffing, we have a total of 43 authorized positions, of which 7 are presently vacant.
Oh, that must be hard.
Well, sometimes it's by choice. I may talk about that later when we get into the job functions. Some of it is the result of recent turnover.
Okay. What are the top 3 priorities or functions of your office?
Well, the only 3 are we collect, we bank, and we invest. Those are the 3 principal missions that we have.
Wow. Okay. And finally, what are the challenges that your department is facing?
Tomorrow. Tomorrow is the challenge. We're prepared for many of the uncertainties that come up, but we can't predict the things that are going to happen. When the Thomas Fire burned down 2% of the secured tax roll in Ventura, the auditor controller and the assessor and I went into overdrive to set up a procedure to assist taxpayers whose property had changed from a nice house to an empty lot for purposes of taxes. We have had significant financial issues. The whole virus crisis over the last year has shown us that what we need to do is to develop an agile, streamlined system that is capable of dealing with unexpected occurrences. And I think that's what we have. I am prepared, if you want, to go in and tell you some of the things about the main functions of the office in more detail, but of course, this is your interview.
Well, we have some time. If you'd like to tell us more, we'd be very interested to understand it better.
Okay. To start with, I am the elected treasurer tax collector, as you know. These offices have been combined since 1963. In addition to being the head of this office, I am also by law a member of the Ventura County Employees Retirement Association Board of Directors. That absorbs about 25% of my time doing oversight as a board member of their investment operations and their personnel operations in dealing with retired employees. I'm also by law a board member of 4 supplemental retired programs, including in particular oversight of the county's 401k program that nearly all employees participate in. I'm a member of the county's executive committee and a member of the financial planning committee. And I am, in addition to being the overall lead of the office, I am the de facto, as a matter of practice, chief investment officer for the county investment pool, a task which consumes about 40% of my time. We have one assistant treasurer tax collector, Mrs. Sue Horgan, who is effectively the chief operating officer for the office. If you said that I'm doing oversight from perhaps 5,000 feet, she's doing oversight from 1,000 feet and more directly managing the day-to-day issues of the office. We have 3 units within the office to help us carry out the 3 main functions that we have. We have a tax collection unit, which is what most of the citizenry is actually familiar with in terms of paying their property taxes. We have an accounting unit, and we have a treasury unit. Mrs. Horgan is, of course, equally qualified to take over the office on any day. She's part of the structure that enables, if I stepped out in front of a bus for some reason, she could take over the position right away, and is equally legally qualified to do so. The tax division is our largest division. It's headed by an accounting manager, Lorraine Bunt, who oversees 3 subdivisions. Public service, who are the people who deal at the counter with people who come up to the counter. They also manage the telephone inquiries and the online inquiries that come in either by written email messages or through the county's Helping Hand program, where people can write in and request information and assistance. There are 11 employees over there, plus a staff services manager. It's at the front of the office where everybody can see it. The accounting staff has 7 relatively senior employees who manage 14 trust accounts where we have to hold money for a period of time before it gets dispersed. They resolve problems with online payments, which is a growing, over 23% of all of our tax payments now come in online. So dealing with problems with those is a growing part of our work. They prepare internal reports, and one of the employees in accounting manages all of the bankruptcy cases that we deal with, where the county has been named as a debt that the taxpayer has who wants to have it discharged in bankruptcy. The delinquent collection staff acts more like a traditional collection agency by contacting and dealing with people whose property tax accounts have gone into delinquency after a period of 1 year. They also maintain payment plans on unsecured property like airplanes or boats, and they collect payments for business licenses. Moving over to the Treasury is a bank. In all respects, it's the equivalent of a private bank for the county of Ventura. It takes in about $6.3 billion a year, and it disperses about $6 billion per year. And we have to account for all of that. We don't manage the county's budget. Thank you very much. That is handled by the county's chief executive officer and the county's chief financial officer, but we do balance the bank accounts every day so that they know how much money they actually have to spend. That division is led by an accounting manager, Mary Lou Tan, who is a licensed CPA and who holds both bachelor's degrees and master's degrees, because managing a bank is a complicated business. And so it is well led. There are 7 employees who do all the banking business, create monthly accounts, maintaining trust accounts that are related to Treasury, and prepares the apportionment of income that goes out every quarter based on the results of the investment pool. The investment program maintains a $3.5 billion investment pool with participation by all the agencies and departments of Ventura County government, plus voluntary participation by over 70 other governmental agencies within Ventura County, including cities, special districts like water, medical, library, park, and cemetery districts, and most significantly, all of the school districts in Ventura County, who comprise about 40% or 45% of the funds that are maintained in that pool. I am the direct manager of the daily activities of that pool. We do not employ outside investment managers. Ms. Tan is the formal compliance officer to make sure that we're following all the investment rules. One staff member works full-time on the paperwork of the pool, and Mrs. Horgan and 2 other employees are part-time, have part-time responsibilities on the pool. And every member of the group has gone to a number of programs to achieve professional certifications in the institutional investing business. It's a very interesting office because of the 3 different divisions which have significantly different duties. And I like it. Every day is an interesting experience.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Judge Hintz, for all that important information. Very informative. At this time, we're going to open it up to questions from the attendees, and I will turn it over to my assistant, Chelsea Satula, to facilitate the Q&A. Thank you, Chelsea.
Can't hear you, Chelsea.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Judge Hintz. We have a couple of questions. How does the money you collect actually get distributed? How are those distributions divided up?
The property taxes basically are distributed by the auditor controller. The 3 offices that are involved in the property tax system have distinctly separate duties so that nobody can cheat. And so the auditor, once I collect the money, I tell the auditor controller how much there is. Most of it goes, a significant amount of it goes straight to the state and then comes back to Ventura County as the state's grants and responsibilities to the various participants in the tax process. Most significantly, the schools. So very little of the money goes directly to the recipients. Perhaps 10% goes straight to the beneficiary of the collection. For example, if you look on your property tax bill, you'll see up in the upper right-hand corner a series of other government agencies, school districts, cemetery districts, pest control districts. And the money for those goes straight to them. But that's a relatively small percentage of the actual tax collection.
Okay, thank you. And what type of investments are made by the county and how are those performing lately?
The investment pool has rules, principally passed by the state, and also the subject of a statement of investment policy that is annually, at least annually, approved by the Board of Supervisors when they grant the authority to manage the investment pool to the treasurer tax collector. That means that I have the fiduciary responsibility for managing the investment pool. The investment pool invests in sectors, commercial paper, which is a short-term lending instrument where companies borrow money for up to 270 days. We invest in certificates of deposit, which are issued by banks, including banks from other countries with offices in New York, where they can issue a certificate acknowledging that we have loaned them money for up to a year. We buy corporate medium-term notes. So when Apple issues a bond, we can buy that bond. Those have maturities. We're limited to no more than 3 years on those. We also can buy U.S. Treasury notes and U.S. bonds. We can also buy bonds that are issued by the supranational banks, which are multinational, 30 or 40 national banks banded together. We can invest in the state's investment pool. So we have a very broadly diversified group of investments that we can invest in. Our performance, you asked, I think, about how we're doing, right? Our performance is measured every month in a report that I issue to the Board of Supervisors, and which is on our website, going back to the mid-1990s, describing in detail. The important number is that the objectives of the pool, the principal objectives are safety of the principal and liquidity of the principal, so that the participants in the pool could take the money out if they needed it. A third goal, and way less important, is how much money the pool makes. And we want to make a competitive rate of return, and we know that we do because we routinely exceed the returns of our 3 benchmarks, including the state's investment pool and a state authorized investment pool with whom we are, as a practical matter, competitors for money. So we are also, of course, audited at least 3 times a month, and we maintain the highest rating granted to any local government investment pool by the Standard & Poor's Global Ratings Company, which is a matter in which we take some pride that we've been able to maintain that rating for years, and will continue to do so.
Okay, also, it sounds as if your staff are very well qualified. Who actually has oversight of your department?
I'm it. I'm elected. Even the state treasurer does not directly supervise this office. I'm responsible to the voters who are my bosses. And my goal is to treat them like they're my boss and listen to them as much as I can and do things that are designed to benefit them. Of course, there's a relationship between me and the county executive officer and the 5 members of the Board of Supervisors, but it's a delicate dance. I've described it to a bunch of porcupines in a square dance. Nobody wants to get too close to each other. And so far, I mean, and my goal is to maintain a good relationship with all of them too.
Okay. How can we as voters gauge the effectiveness of your office and how successful you've been?
Well, the investment program is easy because we provide a report every month and we maintain that AAAF S1 plus Standard & Poor's rating that is a very clear measure of how we're doing. In terms of the other collections, what we know is that we are able to collect 98% of all of the property taxes in the year that they're due. That's an outstanding rate. There are many counties in California that never collect more than 90% of the property taxes that are due, and we collect 98% in the first year based just on one letter that I send to them. And it's a nice, polite letter. You've all received it, most likely. It's not threatening at all. And then 5 years after that, we have collected all but 25 or 30 of the properties of the 250 to 300,000 properties that there are in Ventura County. So there's, at the end of 5 years, there's less than 0.1% left over. And so that's a measure of how well we do. But the truth is, this is the best county in California to be a tax collector in because people pay. There are things that we don't have here. We don't have a lot of timeshares, for example. The counties that are loaded with timeshares, they just have the devil's own time trying to collect on those. And the Ventura County economy is really good and strong. And there are, the people here don't have the slightest interest in paying late. They pay on time. In fact, a significant number pay both installments at the same time in December, so they don't even have to think about it in February. So that's, and the other way taxpayers can tell if we're doing a good job is when they come to the counter, if they get treated professionally, then they know that they're being dealt with by a professional organization that's committed to service.
Okay, and other than your high S&P rating and the high collection rates you've mentioned and customer service, are there any other major accomplishments of your office that you'd like to mention from the past year or so?
Well, yes, in the last year, we outsourced the mail collection arrangement in the mid-90s, 5 years ago, to Wells Fargo. Saved the county hundreds of thousands of dollars by doing so, allowed us to repurpose employees to do more service to individual clients, freed up about 10% of our office space that had been occupied by the loudest, ugliest machines you can imagine. And that was a great thing that we did there. We've instituted small issues. The biggest thing we have going is a multi-agency property tax system that is close to development, where the assessor and the auditor controller and I will all have access to the property tax information so that we can deal with it on an integrated basis. That's going to be, I've been working on that since I came aboard in 2011. That was the first contract that I signed, as a matter of fact, was for that. And I'm anxious to see it come through.
Very good. And does your office have any involvement with sales tax?
No, that's strictly a Board of Equalization, a state Board of Equalization matter. We don't do sales tax.
Okay. Will you have a statement in the voter information guide or the voter's edge, which is a nonpartisan information site that's supported by the League of Women Voters California Education Fund?
One would be a fool not to. You know, the League of Women Voters, my only contested election was in 2010. And the two forums that the League of Women Voters sponsored in that election, they were the two best forums of the whole time in terms of question and answers and the free flow of contact between the candidates. And you all do a swell job of this. And so the Voter's Edge is will come to be a very significant voter information product.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I don't see any other questions unless there are any other last minute questions from our audience.
Well, the deal is my office is right here in the front of the building. You can see me from the outside. I moved it to the front so that I could deal with the public when I needed to. So you can come up to the counter and say, hey, I want to talk to the guy in charge, and I'll be out there to say, hey. And you can write me. My email at work is stephen.hintz@ventura.org, and I respond to those myself. I don't always pick up my office phone myself anymore, and my management assistant is out for health reasons, so my phone calls often get transferred, but I'll get back to anybody who wants to ask me a question anytime.
Great. We actually have one final question that just popped in before I turn this back over to Pat.
All right.
Does your office manage Prop 60, Prop 19?
We don't manage them. Both of those are assessor functions, but we make sure that people get referred to the right place to deal with those. And of course, once the assessor makes a determination, then we make sure that the tax bill is appropriate.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'd like to turn it back over to Pat Essick for some concluding remarks.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you, ma'am.
Before we end this interview, is there anything that you would like to add that we have not covered?
This is not a very good job to learn on the job. It's one of those government jobs where you can't just walk through the front door and know everything that's going on. For me, for example, I'd been in government for 35 years, and I did not realize that the Treasury is an actual bank. That was a first day experience to me to realize that the Treasury really is a bank. There are things that anybody who wanted to actually do this job needs to know what to do. And it's also, for example, one of the vacancies is a second assistant. I say that I keep that assistant in one of my desk drawers in case we ever need it. But by saving the county $200,000 to $250,000 a year, not using that second assistant means that I do a lot more hands-on management than you might expect. And that's part of what keeps the job challenging and interesting, you know, is that I get to actually deal with problems. That's one of the reasons I moved my office out to the front, was so I could deal with people live as it was happening instead of hearing about it later. So this is one of those government jobs where they actually expect you to work.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Judge Hintz, for joining us today and helping us better understand your very complicated job, all the roles and responsibilities of the county tax treasurer and tax collector. We really appreciate all the information you shared with us today and having the opportunity to meet you.
It's been a privilege for me.
Likewise. Now, we would like to remind everyone that next Wednesday, we will be meeting at the same time and place and hearing from the County Auditor Controller, Jeff Berg. As a reminder, recordings of this session and all future ones will be available. Please go to the League of Women Voters website to access a link to the recording. Thanks to everyone for attending, and we look forward to seeing you all again next week. This concludes today's presentation. Thank you.